Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Real AI Now. In this podcast, we discuss business applications of AI, real applications of AI, like the name says. And we also discuss how the future may look like in AI. So the topic of today is conversational AI. We're going to talk about what is possible to do with conversational AI today. We're also going to talk about what is not possible to do, quite an important topic because of the expectations that exist. We are going to try to address what the impact of conversational AI can have on your business and how the future looks like. We have a guest here today, Nuno Galandim, who is also going to become a host of this podcast. Nuno is a computational linguist and product manager for our conversational AI product, Robo.AI. We can talk more later about Robo.AI in another episode. Nuno has been delivering excellence in this area for a few years now, deploying conversational AI solutions to business with real impact and high quality, both for customers and for companies. And he's very passionate about this topic, as you're going to notice for sure. So welcome, Nuno. Thank you for being here. Let's start with you. Why did you choose this field, the field of conversational AI? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so first off, hi everyone, and thanks for having me. I mean, really excited. Conversational AI, I mean, it was most a surprise because at the time you actually called me up here at the university. I was lecturing German, so my background is actually linguistics. Later on, I studied quite a bit of translation and applied linguistics, and more recently, forensic linguistics. I mean, and in that field, we get, closer to what we are doing right now, which is actually looking into what people are looking for, how they do that. And that captured my attention. It was actually quite a surprise, I must say, to look at my passion, which is linguistics, from a computational perspective. Yeah, so it was mostly curiosity, I must say. And I fall for it.
But you did work with software before, so you
Yes.
did apply your linguistic knowledge and skills to software before you started with conversational AI.
Yeah, that's right. So it was mostly related to scam. I mean, not to spoil too much here, but about avoiding, for example, emails. One would forward those emails, and we would have an automation that would keep those spammers, let's say, occupied, simulating that it would actually be a human answering those scammers. Yeah, quite interesting project, to be honest.
Okay. What about software localization? I think linguists also work with that.
Sure, that as well. There we have software actually for the so-called CAT tools, so translation assistant tools. So HTML, JSON, for example, the software actually prepares everything up so the translator can fully focus on the text he has to translate and or localize. That has actually also been a field I have been exploring. Okay. Yeah.
So tell us. So let's focus on the conversational AI, the topic of today. What is it? What is conversational AI, and what can be done with conversational AI in general? Let's talk a bit about that, and why do we need it?
I mean, conversational AI is quite broad right now, I would say. To focus on what I have been doing mostly, and we have been focused on, is conversational AI, the so-called chatbots. And not all chatbots are conversational AI, right? So we know the so-called rule-based ones, and then the conversational AI ones, the so-called NLU-driven ones. And those are real chatbots, I would say. The other ones, the rule-based ones, are mere clickbots. So conversational AI, for me personally, means exactly that. It's to have or to simulate a human to allow for users, for customers, to have someone to chat 24/7 and to solve their problems. That's what I'm mostly focused on right now.
So you say, let me pick up on something you said.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between rule-based and NLU bots. Why do you say that one is conversational AI and the other one is not?
Because conversation actually, it means exactly that. It's an interaction and we are constantly adapting to each other, right? So I must react exactly to what you are telling me and the other way around. And the so-called rule-based chatbots, I call them honestly clickbots. They're nothing else than a simplified version of the website, right? They are, they remind me a lot of what we had a decade or two ago, the so-called web on our mobile phones, right? It was actually a representation of a website simplified into a menu, a click menu, right? And sorry, that's not a conversation, right? That's option based.
Why is that bad? I mean,
it's not bad per se.
Let me challenge you a bit there.
Yeah.
Why is it bad to have a menu that I click on? I mean, we do that all the time. Why is that not a good experience?
That's exactly the problem. We do that all the time. So we have better solutions for that, right? I still prefer to explore a website where I especially have pictures, right? There are great artists out there where I have great web designers working on. Why offering in parallel what I call, again, a clickbot? Because it's just a simplified version of that website. It doesn't help me at all, right? I have still to click through a menu, yeah.
So okay, so why do we need conversational AI then? So if I have a good website, let's say I'm trying to shop online for some clothing, and I have a good e-commerce website, a good online shop that is easy to use, what do I need a chatbot for or conversational AI for?
Not sure if it is that simple to use nowadays, right? So shops, they diversify more and more. They are offering more and more, which is great. On the other hand, it makes it harder for users to exactly find what they are looking for, right? And why should I still keep on clicking during 5 minutes on a menu bar, trying to narrow down and to use filters, right? What we see actually, if that shop is offering quite a bit of products I have on the left side or above, the products, I have always filters, right? I click, I need to select like price, like depends. If it's a hard drive, it's size, right? It's the type of the hard drive, it's the brand and so on. So I need to click through all of that until I get all those thousands of products narrowed down to what seems to be what I'm looking for. In a chatbot, for example, I go in there and I formulate it conversationally, just like I would do with an assistant in a shop, right? Telling him, hey, look, I'm looking for a hard drive of this brand within that price range, all in one sentence. And the chatbot will do it for me. It will narrow it down. It's simply faster. It's more natural. It's conversational. That's what we like to do. That's what I now am doing.
I can see that. I mean, I tend to agree with that. Especially if it's something that I can, for example, use my voice and say, okay, I'm looking for running shoes from this brand, and I'm this type of runner, and then I expect my choices to be narrowed to those type of shoes for my type of running, and that I think this will be helpful. I agree. So again, picking up on something you said around clickbot or rulebot versus conversational AI, can you think of a good example of a good conversational AI that, and to me that is, I'm interested in what that means to you, but to me, a good conversational AI is a conversational AI that provides a good customer experience and by consequence, good business results. So what is a good example of a conversational AI to you?
I mean, the question is always, what is that good customer experience you're talking about, right? That's exactly the point. I mean, everybody says, yeah, we want to offer a good customer experience. But the question is, what is the customer actually looking for? And that's one of the main differentiators that I'm only able to find out with a chatbot, with an NLU-driven chatbot. A clickbot does not allow for it.
But no, give me a good example of that. Give me a
you just mentioned it before.
One example where you've actually seen that in action a great customer experience built with a conversational AI?
For the user, there is the advantage of it being faster, the whole experience. People love to talk about what they are interested in, and we see that reflected in the chatbot. People are longer on a website simply, right, and have someone finally to talk about what they're interested in and to gather more information quicker, much quicker than having to download product sheets and to looking into them. But one example, for example, is exactly the fact that people are simply adapting more to what companies have to offer. In the automobile range, for example, it is a test drive, right? We see many more test drive subscriptions with a chatbot than with the traditional form. Why? Because first, it's a chatbot actively offering it to the user. The user may not even be aware or simply forgets, right? Oh, okay, yeah, I have the test drive option, sure. Why not, like an assistant in a shop, right? Offering it, a salesperson offering it to the user. I mean, this is...
But I was asking you for a concrete example of one application that you've seen with one brand. You don't need to mention the brand, but give me a concrete example of a customer experience offered by conversational AI that you think is a good example.
I have a hard time answering that, honestly, because I have many to pick from. So one is exactly the forms, right? We can narrow them down. We can make them quicker. We can make them conversational. I can give all that information in one sentence.
Is that what kind of industry was that?
I mean, it's cross because it works in banking, it works in financial, it works in telecommunication. We use it a lot in automotive, for example, with the test drive forms, right? I can say in one sentence, I'm interested in booking a test drive. My name is etc. And I have an NLU behind it, a well-trained chatbot with good conditions that captured information from that one sentence that I provided. And if something is missing, it will get back to me and tell me, okay, by the way, I also need your birth date, right? Instead of looking at a huge form that, as analytics tell us, the user simply in the middle of it, a bot, because it's not the time, let's do that on the weekend, and then they forget, right? So if I don't capture the user right there, the customer especially, it may be too late, and the chatbot does it.
So let's take that example of automotive. So you mentioned automotive. What can, and I'll pick up on that. And so you mentioned in automotive, this could be a good application because you mentioned already. So you can have a chatbot on, for example, on a website where people can do what? They can look up a car. They can ask questions about a car. What can they do? Okay, they can book a test drive. What else can they do? What can a conversational AI offer, for example, to an automotive, a builder, a car manufacturer, that they can put on their website that provides a really good customer experience? Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So without undisclosing too much, but to pick really...
just in general, don't need to talk about any particular customer.
Sure, but let's pick real world examples here. We are able, through a chatbot, for example, in automotive, to cover 189, 195, somewhere in between vehicles with all details about it, right? Speed, weight, a number of seats, options, accessories, and you can even configure your car within a chatbot, right? Simply telling him or asking what is available for that very same model. And let me tell you, they are very, very specific and strange requests that sometimes don't get to the automobile industry otherwise, right? We found out a lot about special requests from customers through a chatbot. Nobody was aware of that before, right? Yeah.
So are you talking about voice of customer?
I'm talking about voice of customer, which is one of the major advantages. And now we are already on the side of the company, the chatbot owner as well, right? Because it's an advantage for both. The user is heard, right? Because within a chatbot, we of course noticed, we found out that people have no real limits, right? I mean, they ask what's in their mind, right? It's anonymous, right? Nobody, I mean, I don't see faces. I don't have a name there. I know it's a chatbot. Let's ask for it, right? So if people want to have a Louis Vuitton seat in their car, I mean, they may ask the chatbot, right? Nobody was aware of that need, for example.
Seriously? Okay.
Yeah, really, absolutely, right?
You want like a designer seat.
Exactly, yeah, engraved
designer
with their name.
Brand seats in the car.
Right, really Yeah,
Wow.
special requests, let's say. Nobody was aware of that need, and
So,
now we are. Yeah.
So not only, so you, in other words, what you're saying is that a chatbot or conversational AI is cannot only be a pleasant customer experience if done properly, but also is a good marketing tool because in terms of collecting the voice of customer and understanding what the customer is looking for.
There's one thing I always tell people, which is a website, as good as it may be, it's fully passive. I'm putting content there in the hope that users are going to like it, are going to click through it, that it captures their attention, that it holds them there for as long as possible. But it's fully passive. I never know. Okay, I have analytics. Let me just finish this one up because this is really important for me. I have analytics, yes, but you are still analyzing what you are offering, right?
Okay.
Where is the message from the user coming from, which tells you, no, I want special designer seats in my car, right? You have no option to find it out other than through a chatbot.
So is this a bit like what Google does with Google Trends, so that you can actually, Google can monitor what people are searching for, and this is great value to them because they can monitor trends that otherwise, if you have a menu with limited options and whatever thing you're looking for is not there, then the Google Analytics of that website will not understand what you were looking for. It just knows that you didn't find it.
You miss a lot of information. Yeah,
and
it's all gone.
In a chatbot, you actually can enter what you're looking for, and you can use that information for your marketing.
Absolutely. And not only, it's really about hearing out the user, knowing what he's looking for. What does he expect from my website? What does he expect from my products, right? That's it. Because it's simply the user is not always willing to write it into an email, right? Because, I mean, it's not anonymous anymore. I need to follow up on it, right? It may not be worth it. But for a company, it may be worth noticing that there is that 1 or 2 users which are looking for designer seats. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, what you're saying is, and of course I know this, it's easier said than done, isn't it, to implement conversational AI with high quality. This is a point that I think we should discuss still. But before we go there, let me ask you something else. So you talked about good examples of good conversational AI and how conversational AI can have interesting applications. But can you give us an example of a bad conversational AI or a bad example of what not to do?
Yeah, bad example is clearly, I mean, again, for me, the clickbot, right? It's not conversational at all. So we can put that aside right away, right? So a clickbot is not a chatbot because there is no chat, right? There is only click. But also a conversational AI-driven chatbot, an NLU-based one, can be bad. Indeed, it can be bad, or it is bad whenever I write something that it doesn't know about, which is okay. We can't expect the chatbot to know it all, especially if it was just launched, but we need to know how to react upon it. And what shocks me so much is that there are so simple ways of handling that not present knowledge, which is simply not used. We do it, right? Which is simply, you can at least hand out an email address, or you can forward that very same message to the support to get back to you through email, right? So, and the support would get the log, for example, knows what it is about and gets back to the user. Hey, look, you have just had a conversation with my chatbot colleague. He was not able to handle this, but here, that's the answer, right? Or provide a phone number. I mean, there are so many ways you could handle it, or you hand over if there is an agent available, right? And this is seldomly seen. What you see most is that traditional answer, sorry, could you please rephrase? And this is really bad. I mean, it would be better to tell people, I don't know what you are talking about. I mean, I'm not yet able to answer that because people try to rephrase, and a good chatbot doesn't need rephrasing, right? Rephrasing is not going to solve it. And people, we see that they try and try and try again. I mean, come on.
Okay. So, I mean, what does it take, right? What does it take to develop a chatbot or conversational AI that really provides that experience. Is it the right software? Is it the right people? What is your opinion about this?
First off, because there is still that stigma out there, it is not much more, if at all, expensive than a clickbot, right? And that's my main point I want to clarify. If you find a partner, if you find a service provider, a company which is experienced in chatbots, who has a chatbot platform, especially if they provide an end-to-end solution, right? So that you don't have to look for several ones, the integrators, the front-end or widget providers, the back-end providers, the cloud providers. No, find a company, an experienced one in that field that covers it all end-to-end.
This is an agency or something like that.
Right, and which is able, which has enough experience to know these little tricks. And if they have enough experience, a chatbot is not more expensive than a clickbot. It is not. And that's what bothers me the most. Why do I keep seeing clickbots?
Okay.
There's no need for it. As simple as that.
All right. I mean, I think, in my opinion, if I may put my opinion there, I think that bots should have give the possibility of clicking, give options to people.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So I don't think one thing excludes the other. I agree with you that a bot that is just clickbot, nothing else, is a little more than a glorified menu, and and this doesn't offer a lot of value, even though sometimes offering the users the buttons is a good option, because if you're looking for yes or no, you should offer two buttons, yes or no.
One doesn't exclude the other, right? So we do that as well when we build our chatbots, because it's simply faster, easier, right? I have my mobile phone in my hand. I just click that button. If it's an option, I click that button, right?
Or if you know that people have these five topics that they go and ask the chatbot, maybe you should offer these five topics as buttons, because
that's what we call hints.
There is a high probability that it will be one of those five topics. So you help them right away.
I would even
click the right one.
Yeah, I would even go a step further. We call them hints, right? So, and hints are exactly for that, for people to acknowledge that there are more topics, maybe even related, that the chatbot knows about, right? They haven't thought about before. Oh, let's click this. Oh, this is interesting. But more than that, it's a context-driven hint, right? Which means that if you're talking, let's say, about a very specific car model, then all the hints you are going to show are related to that model, which is even better, right? Because it's not anymore out of context. No, you are still within context. You are giving the users hints. Look, I also know about this. So if you want, just click it. But you can also talk it in, right? You can use speech. You can use text. That's important.
So you said that you need to find the right company that has experience with this. What about the right tech? Is that also important to you? You think that the tech is key as well, or
both go hand in hand? So, and if the company is experienced, they should already be using the right tech, right? So when we talk about conversational AI, when we talk about NLU driven chatbots, there are a lot out of there, right? There are a lot NLU out there we can choose from, and each one of them has their advantages and disadvantages. And that very same company must listen, of course, to their customers or partners to find exactly out what is the right tech to apply in which case.
Okay. Nuno, if I'm a company, if I'm a company that has, for example, an online shop, and I sell vacuum cleaners online, I have a challenge with customer service. We are approaching Christmas, and I'll expect a peak of people calling and calling my customer service, asking questions about my product. Where do I start? So do I go and Google for chatbot companies? What do I do? Do I look for agency that helps me? Do I contact the agency that built my website? Where do I start, and what are the steps that I need to take to to get to something that actually helps and improve my customer service using this kind of technology? What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, the first step is actually absolutely the hardest one, right? It's really to find the correct partner, the correct provider, agency, right? The right company, especially because it depends on a lot. It depends first on experience. It depends on the technology they use. Actually, it's a summary of what we just discussed. It depends also on smaller things like or which languages are they capable of working in, right? If I'm a Danish company, right, and I mean, there are other good companies out there, but they may be limited to certain languages, and then they may be limited to providing or not speech to text, for example, if I want a voice bot and not a chatbot, right? So that must be looked up. I think still to look them up and to find them. LinkedIn right now, to be honest, is a pretty good platform, right? There is a lot going on. I mean, it's pretty transparent. Who is more active? What is posted there? Which projects did they do before? It's a good start, right? But yeah, it's hard. So one needs to find the right company. From there, I mean, I can talk about the process we use. We would have a workshop together to really assess the need of that company, right? That's the most important part. It's really to understand where are we right now? What is the problem we want to solve? Where do we want to be in the future? So we need a workshop for that to define our common goals. And to be honest, to launch a chatbot, at least the first phase of a chatbot, as I just said before, let's start together small and grow together, is a matter of a month or a month and a half, and we are live. Right. So you just said we have Christmas ahead. It would be still doable right now. Yeah.
So could I do it myself? I mean, not talking about myself. I could do it. We know we can do that, but hypothetically, as an online shop, I even might have a couple of developers in house who never built a chatbot before, but they're developers. Could I do it myself? What do I need to keep in mind? I mean, can a team of software developers build chatbot?
Again, the trick is really to find the right company to work with, right? So I mean, it's promoted a lot for some years now that build your chatbot in 5 minutes. Honestly, I don't believe in that concept, right? Give me some time here to expand on this, right?
Why not?
A lot of companies tried it. A lot of companies do it. They are able to set up their first iteration of a chatbot. The problem is there is a lot of tooling missing, right? Like, for example, simply checking the logs. I used to say what we don't cover this week, we have to cover next week, especially if it is requested a lot by the customer, right? A chatbot is not only setting up a chatbot and putting it live. A chatbot is a living thing. It receives daily input, living, true input from users that are demanding an answer, and either the chatbot answers it, right? Or, I mean, forget it, that user is not going to use it anymore, right? So what we don't answer this week, we must answer next week. And therefore I need maintenance. Maintenance means looking into logs regularly and to know how to proceed. The problem I have right now is not really with that set your chatbot up in 5 minutes, not really, okay? We can discuss that later on a bit in more detail. The problem I have is that then those companies do not provide a tooling for those do-it-yourself users to check logs and to maintain those chatbots. That's my problem I'm having, right? Why do I need a chatbot for if I'm not able to keep up with my customers, right? I set up an FAQ bot, right? Which answers 20 questions. Now, none of them was relevant to my users. And this is easily, a reality, our everyday reality. And we need to see what is the user expecting from the chatbot, and that needs to be built in to be answered as soon as possible, because then a chatbot is really efficient. So it's about answering the user's questions.
The real challenge of a chatbot is actually the training and
absolutely maintenance,
the continuous training.
Yes, and training means two things, if I may. First, it means enhancing the existing model. Simplifying, it means enhancing the existing topics that I already cover, adapting them in a way, the NLU, that it recognizes the way my user is asking for. Look, there is, take Germany, for example. You have so much variation within, right? It's German. Yeah, it's German. I mean, you have different forms of German. There are different Englishes out there nowadays. You have Indian English, right? For example, and it's simply different, especially if it's speech to text. So the chatbot needs to be trained to cover exactly, I mean, the way the user is requesting and not the way I tried to foresee how the user may ask for that topic, right? Let's take greeting, a very simple one that any chatbot must fulfill, right? I say hi. Of course, if I train the model only to recognize hi, hello, and someone goes in and says, yo, hey, right? And I mean, it must be trained. It's okay to not be able to answer it the first time.
So if I take, I mean, you're obviously very passionate about this. If I take one of the, I mean, all big tech companies, or almost all big tech companies out there have some kind of chatbot development framework or tool, and I mean, and I look at their websites and they all look great. So
they're very different.
The question is, so you're talking about the maintenance and the tooling. Do you see this kind of tooling in those products? Why do you think they never built them? Why do you think that these things don't exist out of the box? I mean, what you're describing seems to be such a common problem. Why do you think that that most products don't offer this kind of things out of the box?
I think it's for two reasons. You just said it seems to be a very common problem. Yes, it is, but I don't think that the customer is aware of it. That's the problem. That's problem number one.
What customer? Like
I mean, the do-it-yourself chatbot building company, right? Okay. I don't think that company is aware of it. That's the first problem, right? So companies usually do not have enough information in order to be aware that there is a log. I can look into it. I can extract metrics from it, statistics, analytics, whatsoever. And then more than that, I should have a tooling to use that log and to feed the existing chatbot. All right. And to practice maintenance, right? The existing ones and new topics I want to build in. I don't think that companies are aware of that part, right? Because companies only promote the first step. Of course, I mean, when I want to sell, I want to put it simple. I want to offer build it yourself, because that is actually, yes, what companies have been demanding for the last years. It's true, right? Companies want to do it themselves. They want to hand that part over to their departments, marketing, build your questions in.
Okay. So Nuno, we are getting to the end of our podcast episode. If you could summarize in 3 points what a company should look at when they are considering introducing conversational AI, what those 3 very short points would be.
Okay, so good. I mean, if you really call it AI, I mean, you must look for first, which is go conversational, right? Go conversational, choose NLU, choose AI, right? Click only is not AI, not at all, right? It's if-based, it's options, it's website-like. No, so go conversational, because you get a lot of data as well. You hear your customer, which is the most important. Second, choose or look for an experienced company to serve you well and which does it end to end, right? We don't want, I mean, it's not such a big thing to launch a chatbot, at least not initially. I don't need 5 companies, right, getting together to do it. I need one good company which covers it end to end. And third, I would choose clearly. It's overlooked so much. Maintenance is the soul of a chatbot. There is no chatbot. There shouldn't be a chatbot out there which is not maintained. It's a living thing. It needs to be maintained.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Nuno. This was a very passionate, interesting conversation. I'll try to also summarize myself what I picked up from this conversation today. So things like chatbot over clickbot, good versus bad. So chatbots need to be trained. That's the key thing. Time needs to be invested in training and the continuous training, the so-called maintenance. This is key to have the right partner. The product, we didn't spend a lot on technology here. It seems to me that technology is important, but without the right partner without the right team using the technology to create the solution, the technology by itself is not going to solve the problem. So there is the mix, the sweet spot is in the right mix. And obviously if you choose the right partner, they'll help you choose the right technology. That would be the sort of the sequence that I would take. So thank you. So I think we reached the end of our first episode of Real AI Now. If you like this episode, stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.